Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman. Our next guest is Mark Silverman, President and CEO of Mark's Moving and Storage. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Good morning, Jonathan.
It's wonderful to have you on. I know for many, many years, I've seen your vehicles all over the place. I know you've been at this for quite some time. Tell us a little bit about the founding of Mark's Moving and Storage and what your company does. I know it's all in the name, but I'm sure there's more to it.
Absolutely. So we have quite an interesting history, actually. The company started in 1979. I was a student at Northeastern University. I needed money. I needed money for tuition. I needed money for food. So I bought a van. I bought a van with money I borrowed on a credit card. And I got a can of paint, and I tried to paint Mark's Moving on the side of the van. And I wasn't a very good letterer, so all the paint just dripped right down the side. That didn't work out so well, so I had someone make me a sign. But that, I think, was maybe $600 van that I bought with money borrowed from a credit card is how I started. And I had no intention of being in the moving business. I just thought that I would move a few things in a van, get some spare change, and it would all work out well. What I didn't know was you needed a license to be a mover. So there were a couple moving companies. I lived in Brookline at the time, and those movers said, hey, you can't be a mover. You need a license. And well, the best thing someone can ever do to you is tell you that you can't do something. So I found out how to get the license. I found out what I needed to do. I applied for the license. I got the appropriate insurance, and I started Mark's Moving Service, it was called at that time. So that was late 70s. And I just kept buying larger trucks, moving more people. I had a fellow by the name of George Jacobs, who was helping me at the time, also a student, who is now the vice president of Mark's Moving and Storage. But in any case, we just kept on going. And what I found was, while I was at Northeastern, that the company was doing pretty well. I was able to increase the number of trucks. And I got to a point where I actually dropped out of college because I had a decision to make. I said, well, am I going to continue at Northeastern, which is where I was going to school, or take advantage of this opportunity to grow the moving company? Well, I knew Northeastern would always be on Huntington Avenue. I didn't know if the opportunity would always be there to grow the company. So I dropped out of college and kept working on Mark's Moving. And here we are, say, 46 years later. The cool thing about this story is that I have 4 children, and when they were all done with college, this was 2013, I said, I have to go finish my degree. So I went back to Northeastern because I was right. It was still there on Huntington. And in 2015, I graduated from Northeastern. It took me 39 years to get my college education, but I have my business degree from DeMoore McKim School of Business at Northeastern. When I went back in 2013, that 2 years that it took me to finish, I learned more than I could ever imagine because I was focused. I was interested in what the professors had to say, and it really helped me a lot. And it helped me grow the business even further from 2015 to where we are now.
What a true wonderful story of entrepreneurship, Mark. What a fantastic, necessity drove the beginnings. You needed to make some cash in college and you took the risk, stuck with it through all those years and had the always never losing sight of the need to go back and get your education and learn some more. I bet you could have taught a couple of classes in entrepreneurship when you were in the business school.
Well, every now and then the professors would say, like, what do you think? Or what have you experienced? But you brought up a good point. I mean, I still have it on my phone. It says, set a goal and never quit. So, I really believe in that. And I think it's very important that particularly younger, entrepreneurs, when they set a goal, it's easy to give up. But I was able to prove on multiple levels that if you set a goal, you never quit, you can accomplish really good things.
We're all about entrepreneurship and learning the stories and sharing the stories of an entrepreneurship. What did you feel those days when you go back to those times when the established, let's call them guys who were in the moving business, said to you, you can't do this? It sounds like, every time a wall was put in front of you, you bear down and you figured out a way to get over it, through it, around it. What drove you in those days?
Well, I think what drove me was the challenge. I think that most entrepreneurs, if not all entrepreneurs, there's just something in our blood that when somebody says, you can't do that, or that's too difficult, and it's a challenge. It's like, well, let me try and make this happen. And you also talked about necessity. Well, I didn't have any money. I mean, I needed to survive. So it was not only the challenge of showing people that I could do something, I needed to eat. I needed to pay tuition. I needed to raise a family. I didn't need to, I chose to raise a family. So, when you have to do things, when you have to survive, you do what you need to do. And I think that I see today there are a lot of people that need to be reminded that you can really accomplish a lot. And what you're trying to accomplish, the goal often is a lot closer than you realize that it is. And so just never give up. Never give up your dreams. Never give up your pursuits.
Well, that perseverance is paid off for you, and you've been involved in a number of different endeavors. You've got another organization, or another company, I should say, the storage company, commercial storage. You've got some background. Tell us a little bit about that entity and when did that start?
Sure. So one of the things in business, I think, is one of the factors that leads to success is you have to have fun. You have to have a passion for what you're doing. So being in the moving business, moving household goods or moving commercial goods, it's still a little fun for me, but it's not as much fun as it used to be years ago because I've done so much of it. So I always try and create, what's the new challenge? So commercial storage, which is really more of a real estate venture, is very interesting to me, has been very interesting. So I decided to become a little more, or a lot more, laser focused on commercial storage. So as you can see, from my coffee cup, from my tie, I like branding, from my signs, the storagecompany.com is the part of our business where we cater to life science companies, banks, medical equipment manufacturers, some retailers to store and provide third-party logistics for their commercial goods. We'll always be a mover. We'll always be doing trucking, but I find it more fun now to be sort of a commercial industrial landlord where I take my 90,000 square foot building and I cut it into little pieces and rent out to people in need, people that have a need for commercial space. And it's fun to watch their ventures. So the storagecompany.com is just the storage leg of Mark's Moving.
It's wonderful. And it sounds like you've served, I would imagine you saw a need within a particular niche. I know life science in this part of the country has gone through booms and busts, and they're probably continually growing and shrinking, and sometimes need space to harbor their equipment. And, it sounds as though you're serving a particular niche. So I don't know if that was part of your original intent, was to find a market that was underserved and to create that opportunity. But again, it sounds like a wonderful diversification of what you're doing to keep you interested and engaged.
Well, I've been lucky in many ways because a lot of these opportunities have really just presented themselves. I guess I've identified them as they've presented themselves, but I didn't really set out and say I have this new brilliant idea that's going to be successful. I saw a need and I was able to accommodate it. And again, I say often, I've been very lucky because I have been very lucky in my career, and part of being lucky is trying to acknowledge that you've gained some success, but then to be able to give back to the community. And probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've done is when I was at Northeastern in that 39th year, my project to graduate involved creating a nonprofit organization called Mark's Northeastern Furniture Foundation, Northeastern for Northeastern University, Mark obviously for me. And what the Furniture Foundation does, which is a 501c3 that I established, is we repurpose furniture that my clients that we're moving don't need. So instead of them going to the dump, being thrown away, we have literally recovered and got into the hands of those in need over 1 million pounds of furniture. So wow. You think about all these trail loads and trail loads and trail loads of furniture that were going to go to the dump, but instead we work with an organization called Household Goods in Acton, Mass, and Welcome Home in Newton, Mass. We're the official mover for both of those nonprofits. And we take these goods, fabrics, furniture that were going to be deemed junk, useless, and instead we work with organizations that are able to get those into the homes, into the hands of people in need. Once a year, through that foundation, we raise enough money to buy a trailer load of brand new mattresses, because mattresses apparently are the number one need of a request for household goods. We raise over, we call it the Marks Mattress Miracle, and we buy and distribute over $25,000 worth of brand new mattresses through this foundation. So many good things happen from that. People that don't have things they need, they get it. People recognize that, yeah, I'm about making money, I'm about being an entrepreneur, but part of the success, part of the formula is remembering to give back. Doesn't matter how much you give back, but help somebody, give back to those in need.
Mark, truly an inspirational story. Doing well by doing good. You sound like you live by that motto. Incredible energy, incredible inspiration. You call it luck. I say hard. It sounds to me like hard work and perseverance were the big lucky flags that you brought to the table. So wish you continued success in all your endeavors, and love hearing the story of your background and your entrepreneurial ventures. If people want to get in touch with you, I know those trucks are ubiquitous all over the area, but if people want to reach out and talk more about either your nonprofit or some storage needs or moving needs, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, it's interesting. It's 46 years, something like that, but I'm still very reachable. I don't know, maybe I'm foolish, but I tell people, call me directly on my cell phone. And so here it is, cell phone 508-889-0640, 508-889-0640, and the website is marksmoving.com, marksmoving.com, as well as thestoragecompany.com. Very easy to reach, and I welcome calls. I love trying to help people.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us on Radio Entrepreneurs. It's been a pleasure hearing your story, hearing the inspiration, and to you, thriving in 2025. I see that as your signature in your box, and sounds like there's no stopping you in the future.
I don't think there is. Thank you for having me on your show.
And we'll be right back with another guest on Radio Entrepreneurs.